Steel and Flame, Book 1 of the Guilds of Avlaan series is available on Amazon. If you like fluffy wolf lolly protagonists and Japanese light novels, follow the link below to check it out.
Hello, hello, Leonardo Cornejo here, and today I want to talk about something that I was thinking the other day because I saw yet another ugly Funko Pop figure. And it is going to start with Funko Pop figures. The thing is, if you ever see a Ruwa the Red Funko Pop figure, that means I died and my books are in the public domain. Because when I die, I plan to I will leave this as a record for when the judges are watching. If I didn't leave a testament by then, but if I die, my work will go to the public domain. My family won't receive any royalties, not out of malice, but because I want to protect my work, and by throwing it into the public domain the moment I die, that's the only way I can protect it. Basically by unprotecting it, I can protect it, because then they can say this is in the canon. Then they can do what has been done to Tolkien. They can't do what has been done to many other authors whose work isn't in the public domain and their relatives own it, the state owns it, or the corporation they worked for owns it, and they corrupt it. What happened to Stan Lee? What happened to Ditko, to Kirby, to Tolkien? They create something, and someone else, a relative or a company who owns it, publishers, whatever, these spiteful mutants, as someone would say. Mr. Dutton is the one who coined the idea of the spiteful mutant theory, but these spiteful mutants who happen to own what they created. How do I say it? They control the decisions of their work and they corrupt it. And then you have these people saying, oh, this is the canon now because we own the IP. When you throw it into the public domain, the canon is gone. When you, for example, you don't have a canon for Robin Hood because it's a work from centuries ago. It's in the public domain, so you don't have a canon for Robin Hood. Therefore, no one can claim this is the canon of Robin Hood. Now that Winnie the Pooh entered the public domain, yeah, they kind of bastardized it with this horror movie and all that, but the point is, that's not precisely the canon, because there is no canon. By throwing your work in public domain, you free yourself from the canon, and there is no canon anymore, and they can't bastardize it. They can't say they can make whatever they want, but it won't be canon because there is no canon anymore. So basically, I will destroy I will burn the house upon leaving. If I die, I will throw everything into the public domain. But that's not the core of what I'm saying. The core of what I'm saying is, I hate Funkos. I hate Funko Pop figures. They are ugly, soulless, poorly designed, and all the same. They are unoriginal, aesthetically unpleasant, template plastic shit, which is uncool. And there is this horrible encouragement to make them. If you ever see a Ruwa the Red Funko, it's because I'm dead, and it's in the public domain and they can make it. But for as long as I live, there will never be a Funko Pop figure of a single one of my characters, of a single one of my works, because I don't plan to sell out. I plan to own everything for the day, from the very beginning until the day I die. Because I really care for my work. I really care for my writing, and as someone said, someone wiser than me, smarter than me, more experienced than me, Reagent and Toxicant, said, if you sell out, if you sell whatever you made to a big company, do it when you are no longer planning to use it, when you are planning to abandon it forever, when you are no longer going to work on it or have any connection to it again, because you won't get it back, because they will bastardize it and you won't stop it. Don't sell out if you still care for it. If you don't care for it anymore, sell out, otherwise don't. And that's my point. I don't have a plan of selling out yet, and I don't have a plan of selling out ever at all. So the only way for them to use my work is for it to enter the public domain. So for as long as I live, there will be no collectibles of my work at all, and that's where I'm headed. Not only Funkos. Funkos are the example, because I could change my mind on many things. I could even change my mind on what I am going to say next. But specifically Funko Pop figures, or anything directly related to this mainstream media, other than, I don't know, maybe some licensing to maybe some sort of crossover with something I care for, maybe some manga. I mean, I wouldn't be against having this crossover one shot between my favorite manga and some of my works. Of course it wouldn't be canon, and it will be only for that crossover one shot. It would be licensing. I wouldn't be the one selling out. I wouldn't give the copyright to someone else. I will be the one doing the licensing. And for example, I don't know, maybe this crossover manga of Guilds of Avlaan with maybe Shield Hero or Made in Abyss, I wouldn't be against it. But you won't see the Disney logo on my work ever at all until I die. You won't see collectibles at all of my work until I die. I could change my mind on the collectibles part, but not on the Funkos part. No Funko Pops of my work at all until I die, because I am not allowing it, because I won't sell out that way. I won't give the copyright of my work to anyone. If I die, the copyright works with me, and this is the evidence. If I die, the copyright goes with me. Everything goes to the public domain the day I die. Everything I made. Because I don't want someone else to use it. Because I don't want someone else to abuse it. The event of I love my relatives, the few I'm still in touch with, and even if I had children who I will care for, they won't inherit the copyright. They will inherit the money, they will inherit some things, some assets, but not the copyright. I die, it goes to the public domain. Because I don't want someone to do to me what was done to Tolkien, what was done to Disney, to the real Walter Disney, not to Disney the company. What they did to many other creators. I don't want it for me. I want my work to be respected, and to make sure that's the case, there is no choice but to reject the idea of having a estate. My legacy will stay, but the copyright dies with me. That's simple as that. The copyright dies with me. When I'm gone, there is no copyright anymore. And everyone can make their stupid fanfics or whatever they want, because I am no longer going to be there. My writing goes to the public domain. and no Funkos for as long as I live. But the thing is, the core focus of this video is I hate collector's editions, collector's products, collectibles. I don't like them, and I don't have plans, as I said, of ever making collectibles of my work. That's something I strongly disagree, for example, with the Reagent Golden Eagle. He, for example, has these variant covers of his comics. I respect that. It's his choice. I respect how he does business. But my work ethics says no collectibles. Why? Maybe because of a childhood trauma. I will admit it. I won't say there is a noble cause, and I won't try to play it smart. When I was a kid, I loved Transformers. I collected the toys, where there was always this or that toy which I couldn't find, which I couldn't buy, or this or that toy which was collector's edition, limited edition, which could run out of stock even faster. There was this toy which was discontinued, and that left me with a lot of frustration, which I didn't like and which I didn't want to make others feel. Of course, I was realistic. As I grew up, I understood that it was because even with the technology back then, mass production didn't mean perpetual production. That physical goods could run out of stock eventually because they would stop producing them. But the collector's part, the collector's edition, the limited edition part, the purposeful discontinuation of a product, I always found it frustrating. And as I began to think of my brand as a brand, of Guilds of Avlaan as a brand, of Ruwa as a marketable character, who she is, as I told someone, she's basically what Pikachu is for Pokemon, but she's a waifu. She's basically that mascot. She's the cute mascot and protagonist at the same time, and the fanservice character too. She's marketable, she's cute, she's easily recognized, and relatively simple to draw, because, well, she's that character who you will recognize everywhere. You can draw on your own anyway. So she's basically that brand icon character. And I began to think, well, what kind of merch do I want to sell with her? Plushies, figurines. I am not at that point yet, but plushies, figurines, maybe other things, maybe other really weird things which can be made in regards to a character, if legally possible. Non-safe for work things, if that's what you're wondering. You know what I'm talking about. And they exist of pretty much any anime character. They exist either officially or unofficially, but you can tell they are borrowing the design. The thing is, I wanted to make her a very marketable character whose merch will sell anywhere. And that's when I began to think, what about collectibles? And it came to my mind, I fucking hate collectibles. And I decided I will try to make everything I can into mass-produced, on-demand product. Some things maybe won't be available on demand, but as technology goes forward, I mean, with 3D printing, for example, you can make figurines on demand. 3D printing makes on demand of anything almost possible. Print on demand is already there. You can buy a print edition of every single one of my books on Amazon at any time. Print on demand is already there. And maybe eventually figurines on demand, plushies on demand. Pretty much anything that I can mass produce, I will mass produce. Pretty much anything that is on demand will be on demand. I don't hate all collectors, but I hate a certain kind of collectors. Those who are attracted only to the products which are limited. Who are not passionate about the thing, but passionate about the idea of that thing being an asset. Which see, how do I say it? Investor collectors. Who see the value of the thing because it is scarce and it is limited, and if there was a single unit more, it will reduce its value. I don't like that kind of collector. I don't like the kind of collectors who get really upset if you open the package, if you use the product. If the book was read even once, they think it loses value. If the figurine is out of the box, it loses value. I don't want that kind of person in my audience, to be honest. I don't want the money of that kind of person out of principle, because they are not passionate about the thing. I want the kind of person who is passionate and wants to collect as many products as possible of the brand, because they care about the brand and they don't care if it is used, if it is new, as long as it is in mint condition. They don't care if it was opened, if it wasn't opened. They care about the product. They want the character, they want to collect the products of the character, they want the IP, they want to collect the products of the IP. They don't care about selling them eventually, they don't care about its market value, because they intend to keep it. That's the kind of collector I want. That's the kind of collector who doesn't really benefit from limited runs, limited editions, from discontinued products. That's the kind of collector who would rather buy a bunch of cheap mass-produced products than spend hundreds on one single limited edition product, if given the chance. Who will buy a plushie, a pillow, and a figurine mass-produced, even if that means missing out on one or two limited edition trading cards of the same thing. Who doesn't care about the costs, but about the thing. Who doesn't care about how much it will cost in the future, but about how much they can afford at the moment. Who doesn't plan to get rid of it eventually. Who sees their trading cards, their figurines, their whatever they are collecting, and they think, I really will need to be quite desperate, maybe, I don't know, starving, or having a starving child or a dying relative, to sell this. I wouldn't sell it if I don't need to. I did actually once sold a few trading cards, a few MTG cards, to make money for part of my computer, for the monitor. I didn't have money for the screen. I had to sell cards to buy the screen, and it is a very basic, cheap screen. What did I do? I picked cards I didn't like. I collected Magic the Gathering cards, but not all cards I collected were cards not all cards I owned were cards I liked. Every now and then a booster gave me cards I didn't like, cards I didn't care for. So I went with these guys who were buying them, and turns out some of them were actually quite expensive. I sold them, and I bought the new computer screen. Other than that, I didn't even know the price until I was going to sell them, because I didn't have the plan of selling them. And for example, my Sliver cards, my Mirror cards, my Fungus cards, which are the ones I really collect, I am not planning on selling them at all. I won't sell them. I won't sell them now. I won't sell them yet. It wouldn't really take the situation of being starving, of a cat needing surgery and dying, of having a child and the child needing not having money for my child. Don't know, maybe a surgery, just like with my cats, or my mother dying and in need of surgery. It wouldn't need to be something that bad for me to sell a single one of those cards. Of course, maybe it wouldn't be just a single one, but to start selling them, to even consider them, it would need to be that bad. Same with my video games, same with my figurines. I do have some physical copies. Most of the games I play on PC are digital, but for example, I have a few console games. I have a Final Fantasy XII disc, for example. I wouldn't consider selling it, and it's in a very good condition because I only use it for playing. I would need to be in a situation that dire of having a relative's life in danger, of being myself in danger. That's the only kind of situation in which I would consider selling my the things I collect. My masks. I collect masks, and I'm not talking about like a especially high quality masks. As long as they are not latex masks. I don't like the latex, but even a literal cheap Halloween mask becomes part of my collection if I take fancy to it. Wooden masks. The material doesn't matter. If it is a mask and looks cool, I'm buying it if I can, because I collect them. I wouldn't sell them, and they are cheap stuff, but I wouldn't sell them unless I'm really in a really bad situation. That's the kind of collector I want for my audience. That's the kind of collector I want to appeal to with my merchandise. The person who is passionate, who wants merchandise, who is asking you when will you release the plushie, and they don't care about the future price. They don't care about selling it eventually. They don't care about the market price going up because it is scarce. And that's why I don't want to make them scarce if I can avoid it. Everything I can mass produce, for as long as I can mass produce. Everything that can be produced on demand, for as long as it can be produced on demand. That's my plan. That's my business plan. Long term, short term, no matter how long it takes. As long as I live, I don't have intentions of making a single collector's edition, a single limited run on purpose. There are a few copies of my books which look very different to the current version, for reasons which are basically mistakes I made. Errors I had to correct, changes I had to make, but they are like that because of mistakes. I know some collector will show up eventually and buy them. I know they will increase their price, but it is not on purpose. And I actually plan to fuck it up eventually by releasing those, some of those error versions. Again, I don't know how or when, but I will re-release some of the mistakes, so to speak, some of these errors, just out of spite of those investor collectors. I'm not kidding. Just out of the spite of those investor collectors, eventually I plan to release the mistakes I made for those really passionate collectors. And they are not good. They are not really quality products compared to what I'm making. They are crap compared to what I'm selling right now. But it is to fuck those collectors. Those specific investor collectors who consider a misprint of a card, they exist, who consider a misprint of a card more valuable than the real card. I want to fuck those collectors. I hate them. I really hate investor collectors. I really hate the kind of market they make, which doesn't benefit the creator directly, under normal conditions, who doesn't benefit the fans under normal conditions, who favor scalpers and benefit scalpers, and this happens because scalpers know of these investor collectors and of how once the limited product runs out of stock, these investor collectors will pay more, and they expect the price to go up even further, so they will pay more, and the scalpers go and buy in bulk, and they make sure the product runs out of stock for the sake of these investor collectors. They are exploited by scalpers, who are the worst of the worst, even worse than in investor collectors. I want to fuck that system. I don't want it to exist in my business. Everything I can mass produce, everything I can offer on demand, everything I can make accessible to as many as I can, I will. And that's also why I oppose DRM. My books don't come with DRM. Well, in the digital format they are not with DRM. Why? Because I hate DRM for that very same reason. Because I don't really approve of piracy. I know it doesn't really benefit me. I know I don't make a single cent from pirates. I think if you can, you should buy it. I mean, I avoid piracy. There was a time when I was in a really bad economic situation and there was not enough internet for distribution, in which I did pirate some things in the past. But there were very few things. I could count them with the fingers of my hand. They were things mostly that were discontinued, that were no longer available, or that were never available in my country. I understand piracy. I don't approve of it, but I understand it, and I will say it is a problem of distribution, of IP right holders limiting distribution or censoring and forcing you to need the pirated version, which is uncensored. I basically think if my book is banned in your country, pirate it. If you are way too poor and can't buy it, pirate it, advertise it, and when you recover from poverty, buy it. If under any circumstances accessibility becomes impossible to you, pirate it. If you can buy it, buy it. If you can't buy it, pirate it, and when you can buy it, do it. That's my perspective. Of course, if you pirate it, at least try to advertise it, try to get me more customers to compensate until you can buy it. Therefore, since I think piracy is primarily a problem of accessibility, and since limited runs and collector's editions and discontinued products are the result of reduced accessibility, sometimes artificially reduced, I will do everything I can to prevent that. I will do everything I can to keep things accessible, to keep things available for as long as I can. And unless I make a mistake, there won't be. Unless I make a mistake or have a really big change of heart, there won't be anything that will increase in value because collectors will buy it for no matter the price. Everything will have its price and you will be able to buy it on demand. Unless it was a really extreme thing, because I do think, well, what if my brand got so popular and Ruwa became so famous, someone will pay for a pure gold and gemstone figure of her, or gold-plated figure of her with gemstones. I don't know, maybe rubies for the hair, topaz for the eyes, and with the gold plating. Then it would be really hard to have something mass produced, but unless that kind of crazy thing happened, you know, the kind of crazy thing that only some really obsessed rich fan would buy, unless that kind of thing happened, which is often custom made and therefore pretty much on demand, there will be no such a thing as you can only find X amount of these, you can only find 10 of these, only 10 were ever made. There won't be such a thing. And even in that case, it wouldn't be like only 10 were ever made because we decided to not make anymore. More like, oh, there is only one, you know, these gold plated Ruwa figurines, there are only 10 in the whole world because only 10 people have commissioned them. They are literally made on commission. You order it and it takes a while for it to be made. They get it made and only 10 have ever been ordered. So there are only 10 in the whole world for that reason. I could try that. If I know of a way to make that happen, I will, because I really hate investor collectors. As a child, I didn't know why those things happened. I didn't know why. I mean, I learned. I know the discontinuous products were because of logistics. I know it is because they couldn't keep making them forever. I know that's how it happens. I understand that. And as I said, if I can prevent that, I will. But if I can't prevent that, it happens. Shit happens. I didn't know back then, but I understood it now, and well, I am saying I see it now as well. If it happens, it happens. But in regards to collector's edition, to limited edition, to limited runs, and I hated limited run games before it was cool because of that. Because I hate the concept of limited runs. But as a child, I didn't understand why it happened. I was like, why do they do something this evil? Why do they prevent me from buying these? Don't they want money? That's how I said it as a child. How I saw it as a child. Don't they want my money? I know I'm a child, but I could save hundreds if need be to buy this figurine. Why do they make only a few, and why do they make sure children can't have it? Children can have money too. That's why I thought back then. Children can make money too eventually. Of course, they won't make money right away, but they can save. They can work a lemonade stands or whatever. They can get allowance and save. Why do they refuse my money? Why do they reject my money? First of all, why do they make it so expensive if it is made of the same thing as the other one? And why do they have why do they make only a few of them? Why does this happen? And I understood then, as an adult, I understood that it was because of investor collectors. Because they know there are two types of collectors. Obsessive ones, who I like, who I want as my audience, and who will pay anything for those products. That's in part why they are that expensive. And who will get desperate if they know the product won't be there anymore, who won't leave it for later, some of them will even sell their car, sell something valuable to buy them if need be. And they are victims of the circumstances in this case, and they know they also have these investor collectors who I hate, who want these products to be limited so that they can later on sell them at a higher price to the obsessed collectors who will sell their car for a product. Once I understood all that, I realized it wasn't that they didn't want my money. It was that they were appealing to the kind of people who will make an investment on these products. They wanted their money. It wasn't that they specifically didn't want mine. It was that they wanted theirs. And these people wanted and would only buy products which are limited, which will have an increase in value, I think at first they realized because of the situation of discontinued products. I think it began like that. I don't know, chicken and egg situation maybe. But I think in the case of figurines, of action figures, dolls, whatever, I think it didn't start in the business. I mean, they do know there were art pieces which were valuable because of their scarcity, and there were art pieces which were scarce because they were commissioned. But I think when toys began to get mass produced, they didn't think of appealing to these people. But as they began to see the increases in value of discontinued toys, they probably began to appeal to them, to these investor collectors, who wouldn't buy the mass-produced ones, but they would prioritize the discontinued ones. So they made this purposeful artificial scarcity. There can be a scarcity because you discontinue a product. I don't know, maybe because it is no longer profitable, or because it was made with a material which is no longer used. Don't know. Maybe it was painted with lead and people no longer paint with lead, and you discontinue it and release a version without lead or whatever. There is natural scarcity. There is scarcity because of the inevitable discontinuing of a brand, which I do think with 3D printing and other future technologies will no longer be a necessary evil. But I understand discontinuing. What I disapprove of is limited runs in general. Products which you can only there are only 10 in the whole world, because otherwise these fucktard investor collectors will not buy them. And I know maybe someone in my audience is one of those investor collectors, and I will contradict myself on what I said with Nox, and I will do exactly what Timple did. Fuck off! Bye bye! No, I'm exaggerating, but I will say it now. I will say what I really think. Please reconsider. Please reconsider. I was joking. I was mocking Timple, but in all seriousness, reconsider. This isn't the kind of audience I want in my fandom. I don't want investor collectors because I don't consider them passionate, because they are willing to sell to the passionate ones at increased prices, and because they create scalpers. I really don't have much respect for investor collectors. I think they could do better. I think they need to reconsider. So please reconsider. If you are part of my audience and you happen to be an investor collector, reconsider, please. Really. You are not really doing something good for me as a creator. You are not doing something good for the brand, for the fans. If you really are a fan of my work and you are an investor collector, you are hurting the other fans. You are indirectly harming the other fans. So reconsider. I'm stopping the joke. The fuck off part was just a mockery of Timple, seriously, because I'm recording this like a week or two after that happened. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but I'm mocking him because it's fresh in my memory. But in all seriousness, please reconsider, because I really think they are a bad thing for the business. They are a bad thing in general. I really don't like it. I really act out of spite for them, because I think it is not necessary. I think a brand, an IP, doesn't need investor collectors to grow. Doesn't need limited runs to grow. And that's where I disagree with Reggie Golden Eagle, with the variant covers. I agree more with I forgot his name, with Young Ripa, who on the contrary said variant covers are not good because they increase the sales of a comic, because someone will buy all the variants, and maybe the comic isn't that good and doesn't have that many sales, but it has 6 variant covers, and the collector will buy 6 tomes of the same comic, and they will put it as, oh, 6 comics sold, 6 comics sold, and that's because it is successful. Well, 6 comics is a small number. Imagine that exponentially bigger. Let's say 6 more comics sold. Of 6 of 100 were for the same person because of the variants. That's why I don't like them, and because they attract, and limited run in general, they attract investor collectors, because they will say, oh, because the thing is there are not that many of this book. Energy, of course, is selling comics and it is harder, and I think he actually addressed that it's not that easy for him yet to make them on demand. But so, well, he will need to follow that model of discontinued products, of having a certain amount printed. That's the thing. He gets them printed a certain amount and then distributes them. But I do think an on-demand model eventually will be more accessible to everyone, and then we won't need this system of scarcity. But he doesn't purposefully make them scarce. I just disagree with the part of I just disagree with the variants, but he doesn't make them scarce. In fact, he actually had spares for whatever contingency happened. He had spares which ended up being sold later on, and maybe that's how I will get my copies eventually, because I'm short of money right now. But eventually, when I have enough money, I want to buy Blade Devil, preferably when it is complete and I can buy the whole story. I will buy Blade Devil, mostly because of Ninoa. I really like Ninoa. No joke. Seriously, I really like her a bit more than I like Ashera. I do like Ashera too, but I prefer Ninoa. As I was saying, I do plan on buying them, and maybe that will be the way it happens when he has too many spares. The thing is, I know he isn't precisely making things scarce on purpose, so I don't think he's part of what I'm criticizing. But I don't like the way he does things. I understand why he does things that way, and I respect that, but I don't like it. And I want to do it myself that way. That's my point. I disagree with that model, I don't like that model, and I won't be part of it. Because I don't like investor collectors, because they were the primary cause of one of my biggest frustrations as a child. As I say, I won't say it is a noble cause or really deep. I know it could be reduced to childhood trauma, and I will respect your opinion if you think, yeah, that's stupid. Well, my point is, I don't like investor collectors. I think they are a disservice to the fandoms they are involved with. Some of them are not even fans, and that's why I opened with the Funko part, because Funko Pops are an example of that. Are actually made primarily for investor collectors. There are people who collect Funko Pops. They don't care about the IPs. They just collect Funko Pops. And people who are investor collectors and collect them because of that, and people who collect them because they are Funko Pops. And they don't care about the Star Wars. They don't care about Marvel comics. They don't care about the Spider-Man, about Superman, about My Hero Academia. Most people don't really care about Rick and Morty anymore, so obviously they don't care about Rick and Morty, but they will buy this horrible, disgusting Rick Sanchez Funko because they are collecting Funkos. Either because they are Funko collectors, because they are fake geeks, because they are consumers, or because they are investor collectors, for whatever reason. And they are all part of this, or because they are scalpers who are trying to sell to. They are investor collectors who are trying to sell to rich versions of whichever of these, or they are scalpers who are trying to sell to whichever of these, including investor collectors. The point stands. They are not the kind of audience I want. They are not the kind of people I want in my audience. And that's why I particularly hate Funkos. They are ugly, they are unoriginal, they are uncreative, they are poorly designed, and even worse, they attract the worst of the worst in terms of fandoms. They attract investor collectors, they attract fake geeks, fake fans, They attract Funko collectors who are mostly fake fans, and they attract the scalpers. That's why I use them as an example, because they are the worst of the worst in terms of merch. I really hate them. I really hate the model by which they emerged. Same with this company Limited Run Games, which now everyone hates. I hated them when it wasn't cool to hate them, because I hated them because of their business model. Because their business model is the same. It is built around fake geeks, around the consumers, and around the investor collectors, and around the scalpers. And I hate most of those. The only ones I can tolerate are consumers, because I pity them. I don't hate them, I pity them. And of course, obsessive fans who are the end target of investor collectors and of scalpers. So the only good ones among the audience of this kind of business models are the obsessive fans and the consumers. And the consumers are pathetic and pitiful. They are good morally because they are not evil, but they are pitiful. So 2 out of about 5 or 6 categories of collectors are the only ones who I respect enough to want them in my audience, and the others are some of them aren't even collectors, like scalpers. And the model of Funko, the model of limited runs, of limited run games, of limited runs in general. That's why I got it mixed up. That kind of model of collectibles, of limited collectibles, favors people I don't respect and people I despise, like scalpers. It's not a model I want for my business. It's not a model I think is good for business in general. And it's not a model I think benefits the creator. It benefits sometimes the right holders. It benefits investors. It benefits investor collectors. It benefits scalpers. But it doesn't really benefit fans, and it doesn't really benefit creators. It doesn't benefit the target demographic at all in any sort of brand. It benefits people who are in it only for the money or only for the pose. And that's not the kind of people I want in my audience. They can be that for another fandom, but if you are a fan of my audience, you can't be that for this fandom. That's the point. And if you are a part of my audience, you can be that for Star Wars. You can be an investor collector for Star Wars, but you won't be an investor collector for Guilds of Avlaan. You can be an investor collector for you can be an investor collector for Marvel, but you won't be an investor collector for Guilds of Avlaan. You can be an scalper for any of those, but not for mine. I don't want that kind of people in my audience. I don't want that kind of people ruining the fun for everyone else. I know it's a bit extreme, and I know some of what I'm saying sounds quite controversial or might insult you, might even alienate you. I even made a joke about Tim Pool because of that. Because of that I made a joke, because he did alienate his audience by saying it that way. My point is, I don't want that kind of people in my audience, because I don't think they benefit the rest of my audience, or me, or my work. It's basically what he complained about. It's how did I say it? Waving bills in front of me, expecting me to change, of expecting me to do things your way. That's why I take issue with investor collectors. Nothing more, nothing less. It's not that personal, it's not hatred. At least not. I mean, not personal hatred, but hatred to the business. And in the case of scalpers, yeah, they really If you're a scalper, that's where I go. That's what time to move on to another one. If you're a scalper, now seriously, fuck off. I mean, to the investor collector, I will tell you, please reconsider and don't do that with my work. But to the scalper, fuck off. Nobody fucking likes you. This one is not a mockery of Team Pool. This one might alienate one or two in my audience, but seriously, nobody likes scalpers. Not even other scalpers like scalpers. Nobody fucking likes you. Fuck off. If you're a scalper, fuck off. Seriously. Nobody fucking likes scalpers. Even companies don't really like them. Most companies, some do like them. But most companies want investor collectors. But they hate scalpers. Because scalpers will buy plenty of the same thing and they will obstaculize investor collectors, who are the primary audience for most of these products. I don't like scalpers at all. I don't like the investor collector model. I don't like limited runs of any kind. I will do all I can to prevent them from forming in my work. Well, that is for today. Have a nice day.